It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che here to provide you with the latest. Let's start with the headlines. President Park Geun-hye begins her visit to France with the two countries seeking to diversify trade, bolster investment and foster new industries. The president begins her official schedule with a Korea-France business forum. Washington moves towards completely severing banking ties with Pyongyang, setting the tone and motivating other nations, including China, to follow suit. It's also spearheading the charge for adoption of a new UN statement condemning North Korea for its latest provocations. The South Korean economy continues its unimpressive growth for a second straight quarter. Low domestic spending is singled out as a key culprit, prompting calls for measures to boost consumption at home. Yesterday, Africa, today, France. President Park Geun-hye is now in Paris after wrapping up her three-nation tour of Africa. Her four-day trip gets started with a Korea-France business forum. Song Jae-sun, who is traveling with the president, has our top story.
Saturday marks the 130th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Seoul and Paris. And President Park's state visit to France was made possible by an invitation from her French counterpart, François Hollande. Through summit talks Friday, the two leaders will adopt a joint communiqué aimed at strengthening their comprehensive partnership in the 21st century. Seoul sees that there's still room for growth and expanding trade volume and investment with the sixth largest economy in the world and third biggest in Europe. To realize the potential, the two sides will seek to diversify trade items and bolster investment, while seeking to foster new industries and the creative economy. Deepening cooperation on the international stage from climate change to nuclear threats is another agenda.
The two countries will discuss measures to reinforce cooperation in the creative economy and cultural prosperity. We will also garner support from France on our drive to reunify the Koreas. We'll also seek to boost our global partnership to resolve international issues like sustainable development and climate change.
President Park will also be granted a Doctor of Science degree at a Paris university, acknowledging her initiatives for creative economy and cultural prosperity. President Park's official schedule begins with a business forum and partnership on Thursday, followed by a cultural event highlighting Hallyu. To further promote the Korean wave, a K-Culture Week is being held in 9 cities across France. Song Jae-sun, Arirang News, Paris.
The two nations' strong relationship built on more than a century of diplomatic ties is evident throughout the streets of Seoul, Korea. Nowhere is it more clearly visible than one neighborhood popular for its cafe, restaurants, and a special school there. Lee Ji-won takes us to the Little Friends of Korea.
Korea and France have shared many economic and cultural exchanges over the past 130 years. Business people and expatriates have been welcomed in both countries. And today, more than 4,000 French people live in Korea.
And as the number of French people in Korea grew, they formed their own community. There's even a French village in a plush residential area of southern Seoul called Seorae Village.
About 300 French nationals live in Seorae Village, also known as Little France in Seoul, an area filled with various French institutes and stores. Even the road signs are written in French. One of the main reasons French people gather in the village is because the French School of Seoul is located here. Since the school moved from Itaewon in 1985, more French families have settled in this neighborhood. With about 450 students from kindergarteners to high schoolers, the school uses a French curriculum to help students adapt to any French school in the world. But there's one special requirement in the curriculum.
One of the strong requirements of this network is to make sure that we integrate the local culture and language in our curriculum. And when they, for instance, study what Chuseok is like, or the various traditions of the country, or from the age of 8, they study the Korean language.
And to assist foreigners living in Korea, global learning centers were established in 2008. The centers are open to all, but the programs and staff at this center in Seorae Village are mainly French.
We help them with whatever questions they have on living in Korea, big or small. As the centers need to reflect the foreign population in the area, all of our staff speak French, and we hold more programs on French culture.
The center provides various assistance ranging from dealing with small language barriers to teaching Korean cultural events.
During my first week here, it was for me the first persons I met, and they explained me a lot about Korea, and I know that I have found a place where I can be welcome and have all the answers to my questions.
With efforts like these, the people of both countries have been able to broaden their understanding of one another and develop closer ties, creating a unique and friendly French community right in the heart of Seoul. 이지원, Arirang News.
Moving on, South Korea welcomed Washington's latest step toward completely cutting banking ties with Pyongyang. The U.S. Treasury Department designated North Korea as a primary money laundering concern. Here's what the spokesman for Seoul's foreign ministry had to say.
The South Korean government highly evaluates the measure. It reflects Washington's resolute will to keep imposing strong unilateral sanctions on North Korea, along with the thorough implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2270 to bring about actual change in North Korea, including the regime's denuclearization.
According to the ministry, it's also noteworthy that the designation came months before Washington's deadline for reviewing its North Korea Sanctions Enforcement Act. The government expects the designation to not only take a direct toll on North Korea's financial affairs, but to also bring about indirect effects. Other countries with U.S. bank accounts could be affected if they do not stop transactions with Pyongyang. Watchers say the designation could also be seen as a message to China to keep the pressure on the North. According to a ministry official, Seoul received no description from the U.S. of any particular country to be targeted. South Korea also welcomed the UN Security Council's condemnation on North Korea, vowing continuous cooperation with the Council members to bring about change to Pyongyang. Kwon So-hwa has more on the UNSC's adoption of the press statement.
The UN Security Council wasted no time responding to North Korea's latest provocation. Just a day after Pyongyang's failed Musudan ballistic missile launch, the Council adopted a press statement saying the launches are in, quote, grave violation of the DPRK's international obligations under United Nations Security Council resolutions. It also noted that the tests contribute to the regime's development of nuclear weapons and increased tension in the region. The statement, under the lead of the United States and Japan and consulted with non-member South Korea, was unanimously accepted by all 15 members of the Security Council, including the North's longtime ally China. The statement also referred to another missile test late April, which, despite calls for a press statement, was not adopted as Russia asked for more time to review it. It's the fifth time the Council has issued a press statement since it adopted tough new sanctions against North Korea in March, following Pyongyang's fourth nuclear test and long-range missile launch early this year. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
South Korea is gearing up to participate in this year's Rim of the Pacific exercise in Hawaii this summer. This year's drill will be the largest ever, with a focus on maritime security and control. Connie Kim introduces us to RIMPAC 2016.
South Korea will be participating in the Rim of the Pacific exercise, the world's largest international maritime warfare drill in Hawaii this summer. The U.S.-led biennial naval exercise will run from June 30th to August 4th this year, with the participation of 27 nations, making it the largest ever. 4 countries, Brazil, Denmark, Germany, and Italy, will be participating for the first time. China will also join, despite stirring up controversy last time in 2014, when it sent intelligence ships to waters near the training site. The U.S. will be sending some 25,000 personnel, 45 surface vessels, and more than 200 aircraft to the exercise, which will focus on maritime security, including amphibious operations and artillery exercises with defensive training against missiles, submarines, and aircraft. The South Korean Navy has been taking part in the exercise since 1990, and this year it'll send approximately 700 servicemen from the Navy and Marine Corps, along with 3 warships, a maritime surveillance aircraft, 2 submarine helicopters, and other military assets. What's interesting this year ahead of this year's RIMPAC is that Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo will conduct a trilateral exercise called Pacific Dragon. This drill will take place in waters near Hawaii, and 3 Aegis destroyers are set to participate from each country. An official from Seoul's defense ministry said the drill is in line with the 3 countries' intelligence sharing deal in 2014 and aims to boost their ability to detect and share information on North Korean missile provocations. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Shifting our focus to the domestic political arena, at the newly opened 20th National Assembly, the 3 main parties are still locked in a battle over key parliamentary posts. Kim Young-gil updates us on the ongoing tug-of-war.
The ruling Saenuri Party, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, and the minor People's Party seem to be heading for another clash. They agreed to finish their negotiations over who should take the position of National Assembly Speaker by June 7th and select parliamentary committee chairs by the 9th. But their efforts will likely be delayed amid continued conflict over who should fill these key posts. Saenuri Flow leader Chung Jin-seok says it's tradition for the ruling party to hold the position of speaker and says the main opposition Minju Party of Korea's single-seat majority doesn't automatically qualify it to take the post. The Minju Party says it should hold the position and it even offered to give up a valuable bargaining chip as its opening gambit.
In order to prevent holding up the opening of the new parliament, our party has decided to give away the chairmanship of the Legislation and Judiciary Committee.
The position is prized as the speaker can use his or her power to introduce a bill for a vote without first going through parliamentary committees, in the event of a natural disaster, a state emergency, or upon agreement between rival parties. Meanwhile, the People's Party is vying to chair at least 2 of the 18 parliamentary standing committees. On a related note, the rival parties are working to build their leadership structures. The Saenuri Party named the remaining 10 members of its 11-member interim council after naming the chair earlier this week. The group will be tasked with preparing for the upcoming party convention in July, where members will choose new party leaders. The Minju Party will also elect new leadership at its party convention in August. Ahead of that, it will discuss revising party rules at a general meeting of its lawmakers next week. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Korea's central bank revised its GDP growth upward for the first quarter. It's just by 1/10 of a percentage point, but it still puts the country's economic expansion below the 1% mark. Shin Se-min has the numbers.
Another quarter of slowing growth, but with a slight upward revision. The Korean economy grew 0.5% in the first 3 months of this year from the previous quarter, keeping growth in the 0% range again. The Bank of Korea's initial growth estimate was at 0.4%. It's a slowdown from the fourth quarter last year when the country logged growth of 0.7%. In fact, GDP expansion has stayed in the 0% range for 7 quarters, with the exception of the third quarter last year when a government stimulus package following the MERS outbreak helped nudge figures over the 1% mark. The Bank of Korea attributed this to conditions that remain dismal both at home and abroad, while shedding light on the upward adjustment.
Government front-loading and a 6.8% increase in construction investment helped push GDP growth up by 0.1 percentage points.
Korea's exports dipped over 1%, while consumer spending contracted 0.2% in the first quarter. The country's gross national income expanded 2.7%. At the same time, the savings rate shot up by nearly 2%, meaning despite a rise in income, more Koreans are reluctant to spend.
Uncertainties in the local economy, driven by external factors, have caused more households to close their wallets. That means a lower key rate, normally designed to encourage people to take out loans, won't help boost household spending.
Experts add that a more aggressive and a long-term government policy to help prop up spending is needed, instead of a stimulus package that only has limited effects. With the ongoing corporate restructuring in the shipbuilding and shipping firms freezing up the public sentiment even more, experts say that the central bank's monetary policy alone may not be enough to stir up fresh growth momentum. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The volatility of Korea's benchmark KOSPI has hit its lowest level in a year despite concerns the Federal Reserve is set to raise rates. According to Korea Exchange on Thursday, the KOSPI 200 Volatility Index, or VKOSPI 200 futures, stood at 11.55 as of May 27th, the lowest since mid-May of 2015. The latest figure is unusually stable considering the current global economic conditions. Last August, the index rose to 28.58. following the Fed's first rate hike and China's economic slowdown. As for possible reasons behind the trend, analysts point to possible influences of uncertainties, including a U.S. rate hike and Britain's potential exit from the European Union, have already been reflected on global markets. Honda, Mercedes-Benz, and Ford are recalling a combined 13 models amounting to some 9,000 units in Korea. Honda Civic and Legend models are among others in Honda's range with over-pressurized airbags that could injure the driver. Mercedes-Benz Korea is recalling E-Class sedans for problems with their powertrain control system. Seoul's Transport Ministry says an error in that software may fail to transmit power to the automatic transmission. Ford's Lincoln sedans were found to have fuel tanks that may corrode when exposed to de-icing chemicals. All relevant information can be found on the ministry's website. Owners will be notified individually. The ruling Century Party and the government vowed to draw up a comprehensive set of measures to address the high level of fine dust that's been plaguing Seoul in recent weeks. At a policy meeting Thursday, the ruling party and the government vowed to gradually close aging thermoelectric power plants and make the nation's transportation system more eco-friendly. But they decided not to carry out controversial moves that could burden middle and low-income brackets, like raising diesel oil prices or regulating restaurants that specialize in grilling mackerel or pork. Late last month, the Environment Ministry sparked public outcry by announcing such establishments contributed to the dangerous level of air pollutants. And that brings us to the end of this hour's newscast. As always, thank you for watching.